All right, everyone, get ready for a really fascinating deep dive today.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be taking a look at the mind of Shakespeare,
Wow.
specifically his perspective on love, and to guide us, we have a collection of some of his most powerful lines,
Yeah.
curated by Dr. Jasvant Rathod.
Wonderful.
Now, you might be thinking, Shakespeare, love,
Right.
like, hasn't it all been said already? But trust me, Shakespeare's insights on love are anything but dusty.
Absolutely.
We're talking timeless wisdom that still hits home centuries later.
Timeless is such a good word for it because,
Mm-hmm.
we think about when he was writing this, Elizabethan England,
Yep.
all the social rules and expectations of the time.
Right.
And yet his characters grapple with love's messy reality in ways that we can still relate to today. So
Okay, so let's jump right in.
let's do it.
One thing that really stood out to me going through these lines is the sheer variety of love that Shakespeare portrays.
Yeah.
He doesn't just stick to romantic love, does he?
Not at all. No, and in fact, you could argue that his exploration of different types of love
Yeah.
is one of the things that makes his work so enduring.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, you have the passionate, almost obsessive romance of Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
But then you also have plays like As You Like It, where we see love blossoming between friends and family members. So,
And let's not forget about all those sonnets where he's exploring those really complex themes of unrequited love,
Oh, yeah.
which was huge in Elizabethan literature.
Mhm.
It makes you wonder if all that courtly love with its unattainable ideals
Right.
was actually fueling a society-wide obsession with yearning and longing.
That is a very interesting point. It's
Yeah.
like Shakespeare was holding up a mirror to his society,
Yeah.
showing how these cultural norms
Yeah.
were shaping people's emotional lives.
Yeah, and speaking of mirrors, another thing that jumps out is how Shakespeare plays with the contradictions of love.
Absolutely.
One minute it's all sunshine and roses,
Right.
and the next it's love is a smoke and is made with the fume of sighs.
Oh,
Like Romeo so dramatically puts it.
It's funny you should mention that line because
Yeah.
while it certainly sounds melancholic, there's a deeper layer to it.
Oh,
During the Renaissance, there was this idea that love was a literal illness,
what?
an imbalance of the humors.
Oh, wow.
So when Romeo talks about sighs and smoke, he's not just being emo-deary. He's tapping into this contemporary belief
Okay.
about love's power to disrupt the body and the mind.
So it's not just romantic angst, it's a reflection of the actual medical theories.
Exactly.
Wow, I love how these deeper meanings are layered into the language.
And I think it challenges us to move beyond simply labeling Shakespeare as a romantic writer.
Right.
He was grappling with these complex ideas about human psychology and emotion, often in surprisingly subtle ways.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just getting started.
I know.
So we've got the spectrum of love types. We've got these fascinating contradictions.
Yeah.
But Shakespeare also seems to be making a point about the difference between physical attraction and a deeper emotional connection.
It's like in A Midsummer Night's Dream when he says, love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind.
Yes.
Was he seriously ahead of his time on that one?
It's tempting to say yes.
Right.
On the surface, it seems like he's advocating for inner beauty over superficial appearances,
Yeah.
which is a pretty progressive idea for his era.
Right.
However, if we look closer at his plays,
Okay.
things get a bit more complicated.
Oh.
Almost all of his female characters are described as conventionally beautiful,
Mm.
even the ones known for their wit and intelligence.
So is he being subversive, challenging beauty standards under the guise of traditional romance?
Right.
Or was he still influenced by the societal norms that valued physical beauty in women?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's one that scholars have been debating for centuries.
I'm starting to see what you mean about him holding up the mirror.
Yes.
It's not always a clear reflection, but it definitely makes you think.
Precisely, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I know we haven't even touched on his iconic lines, the ones that have become synonymous with love itself.
You mean like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
Exactly. Talk about a line that's launched 1,000 love letters.
Seriously.
But what's truly remarkable is that these lines have transcended their original context.
Right.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
Yes.
It's not just Juliet pining for her lover on a balcony anymore.
Right.
It's become this universal cry of longing,
Wow.
an expression of desire that resonates across cultures and generations.
That's the thing about Shakespeare, isn't it? He manages to tap into those universal truths about the human experience.
He does.
Even if we haven't lived through star-crossed lovers or mistaken identities.
Right.
we can still connect with those raw emotions he captures so brilliantly.
Absolutely, and that's why his works continue to be performed and studied centuries later. He
Yes.
gives us this incredible window into the complexities of human emotion, particularly love in all its messy glory.
Okay, but let's not forget that this messy glory can sometimes lead to some pretty dark places.
Oh, for sure.
Shakespeare isn't afraid to show us how love can blind us to reality,
Right.
sometimes with tragic consequences.
Absolutely. He doesn't shy away from the potential pitfalls. The
Hmm.
famous line from The Merchant of Venice. Love is blind, and lovers cannot see the pretty follies that themselves commit,
Right.
is a stark reminder that even the most well-intentioned love can lead us astray.
I mean, think about Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, yeah.
They were so caught up in their whirlwind romance
Right.
that they completely disregarded the feud tearing their families apart and ultimately paid the ultimate price.
It's a classic example of how love's intensity can cloud judgment.
It really
And
is.
it's not an isolated case.
Right.
Throughout his plays, Shakespeare provides numerous examples of characters making rash decisions,
Yeah.
driven by love's potent force.
It's like he's warning us that love,
Yeah.
while powerful and beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
demands a certain level of caution and self-awareness.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it?
Yes.
Embracing love's passion,
Yeah.
while also recognizing its potential to lead us down dangerous paths.
Hmm.
And that's where Shakespeare's genius truly shines.
Right.
He doesn't offer easy answers or moral platitudes.
Right.
Instead, he presents us with these complex scenarios,
Uh-huh.
forcing us to confront the multifaceted nature of love
Mm.
and its impact on our lives.
Which brings us to another key theme, the bittersweet pain of parting and sorrow.
Yes.
Even in his comedies, there's this undercurrent of sadness, this acknowledgement that love doesn't always conquer all.
Right, and perhaps nowhere is this more evident than in Juliet's iconic line, "Parting is such sweet sorrow."
Ugh, I get chills every time I hear that.
It encapsulates that poignant feeling of longing and heartache
Yes.
that accompanies separation from a loved one,
Mm.
even when that separation is temporary.
It's such a relatable feeling, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
We've all felt that pang of sadness when saying goodbye to someone we care about.
Exactly. And Shakespeare's ability to capture these nuanced emotions, to give voice to the unspoken,
Yeah.
is part of what makes his work so timeless.
Yes.
He understands the human heart in all its complexity.
Absolutely.
And he translates that understanding into words that continue to resonate with audiences centuries later.
It's like he's speaking directly to our souls.
I love that.
So we've got these different types of love, the contradictions, the dangers of blindness. But Shakespeare also gives us some pretty heartwarming expressions of love, too.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where his mastery of language really shines.
Mm.
He can make even the simplest declarations sound profound.
Okay, so let's unpack some of those heart-melting lines and see what makes them so effective.
Sounds good to me. Think about Ferdinand's line from The Tempest.
Mm.
"Hear my soul speak. The very instant that I saw you did my heart fly to your service." It's not just love at first sight. It's his whole being instantly captivated.
Yeah, he doesn't even try to play it cool, does he? Straight to the point. My heart belongs to you.
And that directness is part of what makes it so effective. It's like he's bypassing all the social niceties and going straight to the core of his emotions, which, let's be honest, is something we all wish we could do sometimes.
Right. Who hasn't felt that sudden rush of attraction, that feeling of being completely swept off your feet?
And Shakespeare captures that beautifully, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He doesn't just tell us Ferdinand is in love. He makes us feel it through the intensity of his language.
Okay, but Ferdinand has nothing on Romeo when it comes to grand romantic gestures. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks, it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Talk about setting the bar high.
That line is so iconic, and for good reason. It's not just a compliment. It's Romeo using the imagery of the sun to elevate Juliet, to make her the source of all light and warmth in his world.
It's almost like he's worshiping her, isn't it? And yet there's also this vulnerability there, this sense of awe and wonder that makes him seem so relatable, even with all the flowery language.
Exactly. Shakespeare understood that even the most passionate declarations can have this undercurrent of vulnerability. And it's often that vulnerability, that glimpse into the human heart, that makes them so powerful.
And of course, we can't forget Juliet's side of the story. Her line, "O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" It's not just a question, it's this cry of longing and despair that speaks to anyone who's ever felt the pain of forbidden love.
What's interesting is that she's not just lamenting the fact that they're from feuding families. She's questioning his very identity, asking why he has to be Romeo, the name that represents everything standing in the way of their love.
So it's not just a romantic obstacle, it's this whole societal structure she's railing against.
Precisely. And that's what gives the line its enduring power.
Yeah.
It taps into this universal desire to break free from the constraints that society places on love.
Shakespeare really knew how to tug at the heartstrings, didn't he? But it's not all grand pronouncements and tragic romances. He also explores those quieter moments of love, the small gestures that speak volumes.
Absolutely. And those moments can be just as impactful as the big declarations, maybe even more so.
I'm thinking of Benedict from Much Ado About Nothing. He finally admits his love for Beatrice with the line, "I do love nothing in the world so well as you is not that strange." It's almost understated, but it carries so much weight because of his previous reluctance to open up.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. It's not about flowery language or grand gestures. It's about that simple, heartfelt confession. And the fact that he adds, "is not that strange," shows how love has caught him off guard, how it's transformed him in ways he didn't expect.
It's like he's still processing it almost in disbelief. And that makes it even more endearing, doesn't it? Because it feels so genuine, so real.
And then you have Olivia from Twelfth Night reflecting on the nature of love with the line, "Love sought is good, but given unsought is better." It speaks to the idea that the most genuine love is often freely given without any expectation of reciprocation.
That's a tough one to live by, but it's definitely a beautiful sentiment. It's like she's saying that true love shouldn't be a transaction, but a gift freely shared.
And that gift, that act of giving love without expecting anything in return, can be incredibly powerful. It speaks to a level of selflessness and generosity that's rare and inspiring.
It's like those random acts of kindness that brighten your day. You don't expect them, but they make a huge impact.
Exactly. And Shakespeare seems to suggest that love can operate in a similar way. It can be this unexpected source of joy and nourishment, enriching our lives in ways we never anticipated.
Which brings to mind Rosalind's line from As You Like It, "The sight of lovers feedeth those in love." It's like that warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you see a happy couple, like their love is contagious.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it ties into this idea that love can be a source of inspiration, a reminder that even in a world full of challenges and heartbreak, this powerful force still exists.
Okay, so we've got these grand declarations, quiet confessions, and even the idea of love as a contagious force. It's almost like Shakespeare saying, hey, love takes many forms, but it's always worth celebrating.
And he wouldn't be wrong. The human capacity for love is truly remarkable, and Shakespeare, through his words, helps us appreciate its depth and variety.
But let's not forget that he also warns us about the potential pitfalls. We've already talked about how love can blind us to reality, but he also dives into the complexities of desire and possessiveness.
Yes. Take Proteus from The Two Gentlemen of Verona. His declaration, "What is light if Sylvia be not seen? What is joy if Sylvia be not by?" Sounds incredibly romantic on the surface, but there's a hint of possessiveness. There's this idea that his happiness depends solely on Sylvia's presence.
It's almost like he's making her responsible for his emotional well-being, which is never a good recipe for a healthy relationship.
Exactly. And that's the danger of possessiveness in love. It can lead to codependency, jealousy, and ultimately a loss of individuality.
Shakespeare seems to be advocating for a more balanced approach, a love that enhances our lives without consuming us entirely.
Precisely. It's about finding that sweet spot between passion and reason, where love can flourish without compromising our own sense of self.
But let's be honest, even when we try our best, love can still lead to disappointment and heartache. It's not always a fairy tale ending.
Unfortunately, that's true. Love isn't always reciprocated, and even the most passionate relationships can face challenges and ultimately end in heartbreak.
And Shakespeare captures this sense of loss and longing so poignantly, like Antony from Antony and Cleopatra saying, there's beggary in the love that can be reckoned. It's like he's saying that true love can't be measured or quantified. It's something far deeper and more profound.
It's a beautiful sentiment highlighting the intangible and immeasurable nature of true love. It defies logic and reason, and that's part of its magic.
So even when love ends, even when it hurts, there's still something precious about it, something that can't be taken away.
Exactly. Shakespeare reminds us that even in heartbreak, there's beauty and meaning to be found.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from love's intoxicating beginnings to its bittersweet endings. We've seen how Shakespeare explores different types of love, the challenges, the joys, the sorrows.
But there's still one piece of the puzzle missing, isn't there?
Yes. We've talked about what he says about love, but we haven't really explored how he says it.
Yeah.
His use of language is so masterful, so evocative. How does he manage to breathe life into these words to make them resonate so deeply with us, even centuries later? It's like he had this magical ability to take words and turn them into something that transcends language itself.
Well, for starters, he was a master of imagery.
Okay.
He used metaphors and similes to create these incredibly vivid pictures in the reader's mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just telling you someone is beautiful, it's comparing them to a summer's day or the sun,
Yeah.
elevating them to this almost mythical level.
Right. It's like he's painting with words,
Exact.
creating these sensory experiences that draw you in and make you feel like you're right there in the scene.
And it's not just the imagery itself, it's the way he uses it to convey complex emotions.
Right.
Think about Romeo comparing Juliet to the sun.
Okay.
On one level, it's a declaration of love, but it also speaks to this idea of her being his source of life, his reason for being.
It's like he's saying she illuminates his entire world.
Exactly.
And that's so much more powerful than just saying, I love you, right?
Absolutely. He takes these everyday images, a summer's day, the sun,
Uh-huh.
a rose, and imbues them with this deeper meaning,
Yeah.
transforming them into symbols of love's power and beauty.
And let's not forget his love of wordplay.
Oh,
Shakespeare was the king of puns,
he was.
even when it came to matters of the heart.
Absolutely. His characters are constantly engaging in witty banter,
Mm-hmm.
using language to flirt, to tease, to express their affections in this playful, almost coded way.
Mm.
It's like they're having this verbal tennis match, volleying words back and forth with such skill and precision.
And it's not just entertaining. It
Wow.
actually reveals a lot about their characters and relationships, doesn't it?
It does.
The way they use language tells us so much about their personalities and how they connect with each other.
Exactly. It adds this extra layer of depth and complexity to their interaction.
Right.
And let's not forget about his use of rhythm and rhyme.
Yes.
Iambic pentameter might sound intimidating,
It does.
but it actually gives his lines this musical quality that makes them so memorable and impactful.
Okay, I'll admit I'm not a poetry expert.
Sure.
But even I can hear the beauty in the way his lines flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're meant to be spoken aloud,
They are.
to be experienced with the ear as much as with the mind.
Precisely. His plays were written to be performed, and his language is infused with this inherent theatricality.
Right.
He understood how to use rhythm, rhyme, and repetition to create these dramatic moments that would resonate with the audience.
It's like he's composing a symphony of words,
Yes.
building tension and release, creating these emotional peaks and valleys that keep you on the edge of your seat.
And that's part of what makes his work so timeless.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about the stories themselves. It's about the way he uses language to bring those stories to life.
Right.
He creates this immersive experience that transcends time and place.
So it's not just what he says about love, it's how he says it. It's the combination of imagery, wordplay, rhythm, and this inherent understanding of human emotion that makes his work so captivating and enduring.
Exactly.
Mm.
He crafts language that speaks to both the intellect and the emotions, creating this powerful connection that continues to resonate with audiences centuries later.
So we've explored this vast and complex landscape of Shakespearean love, the different types, the contradictions, the joys, the sorrows, and even the magic of his language. What's the one key takeaway you hope our listener will walk away with today?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Shakespeare's work invites us to engage with love on multiple levels. It's not just about romantic love.
Right.
It's about the love between friends, family, and even the love of self.
And it's not always easy or straightforward.
No.
He shows us that love can be messy, complicated, and even heartbreaking at times.
But ultimately, I believe Shakespeare reminds us that love is an essential part of the human experience. It's a force that connects us, challenges us, and ultimately makes us who we are.
Beautifully said. And for our listener, I hope this deep dive has not only deepened your appreciation for Shakespeare's genius, but also sparked some reflection on your own experiences with love.
Perhaps you've been inspired to revisit his works with a fresh perspective, or even to explore some of the plays and sonnets we haven't had time to discuss today. There's always more to discover.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Shakespeare on love, we leave you with this final thought. Which aspect of love, as explored by Shakespeare, resonated most deeply with you? And what does it reveal about your own understanding of this complex and multifaceted emotion?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world around you.